Hey, thanks for joining us. I'm Darin Byler, and this is my father, David, and we're going to talk a little bit about wood fiber as it pertains to log houses. What are the different species of woods that people use for building log homes here?
Well, in the western northwest area of the United States, it's lodgepole pine, Engleman spruce, Douglas fir, and western red cedar. Those are the four main species.
I'm sure there's a lot of pros and cons for each one of these different species. What are the positives of some of these different species?
Lodgepole pine has been built in the last 30, 40 years. That's been used a lot. It's many times a very environmental friendly wood to use because it's dead, standing dead in the woods. It's got beetles came in and killed it. It has good form. It's straight, and it's great wood to build with.
So what are the disadvantages of lodgepole pine?
So lodgepole pine, it's very difficult to get wood over 12, 13, 14 inches maybe. It has been sort of depleted in many parts of the country. It has a lot of character to it. You're going to see woodpecker holes and beetle holes in it when you build with it. It's also not as resilient to rot and insects as some of the other species. We still would use it. We just wouldn't use it in some parts of the country.
So what about a spruce?
So Engleman spruce is very much like lodgepole pine. The one big advantage that Engleman would have is that some builders, including us at times, build with green wood. And we have to allow that house to settle. It's more the traditional style. And we can control the checking and we can have a nice clean white look but that home will settle. And we can get diameters up to 24 inches on that.
Oh, and what are the downsides of Engleman spruce?
Engleman spruce is very soft. In the southeast, it isn't. Carpenter beads and some of those things are kind of hard on it, but it's a little harder to maintain.
So what are the pros and cons of western red cedar?
So western red cedar holds up very good to the weather naturally. It has an acid that's in it, insects and weather. It naturally will hold up better than any of the other wood. It also has, a completely different look, much more taper. It can be very beautifully. It's white on the outside, red on the inside, but it's got a lot of character to it.
So what are the downsides of cedar?
So cedar has a completely different look. The very look that some people like, with a lot of character, is also can be a downside. The inside of your house is going to have, your walls will not go straight up. There's going to have big logs, little logs, and it has a good look, but it's really different. And then there's also a few people that are allergic to cedar and will become ill in there.
And the Douglas fir, how does it compare to these?
So Douglas fir is, of course, our preferred wood. It is by far stronger than any of the others. It's very stable after it's dried. Some of the other woods you can't even dry. Put it in a kiln and dry, it kind of blows up. It's also, there's almost no waste factor. With some of the other woods, we buy up to 30 to 40% more than we actually use. Douglas fir, we use all of it. It's also got really good form and very nice and straight if it's taken out of the proper stand of timber. In the Northwest here, we have lots and lots of timber. Our Doug fir all comes from private sources, but it's just by far the best wood.
So are there any downsides to the Douglas fir?
Not very many, but I mean, unfortunately, it's because of the cost. By the time we get the premium Doug fir in here, and we dry it, and we build with it, it's heavier. It's going to cost more money to ship it. The biggest downside is the cost, and that's it.
So we talked a lot about different species, but that's really not the most important thing when we're talking about fiber selection, is it?
No, absolutely not. The grade of the wood is the grade of the timber or the log is way more important than the species. With the Douglas fir, we buy what they call a Japanese grade, which is the highest grade we can get. We would probably try to get somewhat a similar grade with spruce. With standing dead lodgepole or lodgepole pine, we pretty much just get what we get, and then we have to throw away 30 to 40%, even sometimes more than that. we buy a load of logs and we have to throw a lot of it away.
So what is it about a given log? They're the same species, they're the same diameter log, the same length. What is it about one versus the other that we would feel like we couldn't or shouldn't use it in our log house?
Okay, good question. So spiral grain, knots, insect damage, wind shake, and there's a lot of different other things. But spiral grain is maybe one of the bigger ones. And taper, too many branches, too many knots. All those things are very important when we select the log to put in the house.
So there's probably quite a few other species that people build log homes out of. What are some of those other species that we maybe haven't talked as much about?
Good question. Long ago, they used to build out of popple and some other woods that we don't have, but Ponderosa pine is used. Very similar. All western white wood is very similar. It's just hard to dry some of that wood. We've built out of cypress, out of North Carolina. We've built out of oak. All of those will work, but primarily in this area, it's those 4 species.
And that's pretty much it for this video. Thanks for watching.